Why it sucks to be born as a frilled lizard. Life is tough, but if you think your job, your rent, or your bad boss makes your life hard, then spare a thought for the frilled neck lizard. Born into the unforgiving wilds of northern Australia, in southern New Guinea, these little dinosaurs in miniature face a world that wants them gone from the moment they hatch. Predators lurk above, below, and all around. Food is scarce. The environment is brutal. And worst of all, their most famous defense mechanism, that giant, flashy frill around their neck, is as much of a curse as it is a blessing. Welcome to the story of why it sucks to be born as a frilled lizard. Australia is home to some of the most bizarre creatures on Earth. Kangaroos that box, birds that sound like chainsaws, spiders the size of dinner plates, and snakes that could kill an elephant with a single bite. In this land of evolutionary misfits, the frilled lizard, Chlamydosaurus kingi, holds a special place. At first glance, it looks like something straight out of Jurassic Park. Standing up to 3 feet long from head to tail, it has long limbs for sprinting, sharp claws for climbing, and a frill, a huge circular flap of skin supported by cartilage, that it can suddenly unfurl around its head like a nightmare version of a Victorian collar. This frill makes the lizard famous. It's the inspiration for countless movies, video games, and memes. To many people, it looks cool. To the lizard itself, well, it's basically a last-ditch attempt to not get eaten alive. The harsh reality. Here's the truth. The frilled lizard's life is not glamorous. Every single day is a fight to survive. From the moment it hatches, it is bite-sized prey for snakes, kookaburras, dingoes, and larger lizards. Its special ability, that frill drains energy, makes it clumsy and often fails against smarter predators. Its diet depends on catching insects, but in the blazing Australian heat, even bugs can be hard to find. If it tries to look intimidating, many predators just laugh, figuratively, and attack anyway. Being born as a frilled lizard means you're basically a walking snack wrapped in an awkward costume. Why the frill exists. Before we dive deeper into their misery, let's talk about the frill itself. The frill is about 1/3 the length of the lizard's body. Normally, it lies flat, folded against the neck like an unused umbrella. But when the lizard feels threatened, muscles snap it open, revealing bright orange, red, or yellow colors inside. It hisses, opens its mouth wide, and even rears up on its hind legs. To a small predator, this sudden display can be shocking enough to make it hesitate. Imagine you're about to bite into a crunchy snack, and suddenly that snack grows 3 times larger and screams at you. You'd probably think twice. But here's the catch. Not all predators are fooled. Big birds of prey, they've seen the trick before. Dingoes, they just plow right through. Even humans, we think it looks funny. So the frill works, sometimes, but not nearly often enough to guarantee safety. The odds are against them. Let's put this in perspective. A baby frilled lizard hatches from an egg the size of a ping pong ball. No parental care, no protection. It's just thrown into the harsh outback, surrounded by hungry mouths. Out of dozens of eggs laid by a single female, only a handful will survive long enough to reach adulthood. Those that do survive have to spend their days constantly alert, ready to sprint or climb at the first sign of danger. Because yes, frilled lizards can run, and not just on all fours. They're one of the few lizards that can sprint upright on their hind legs, like little dinosaurs. It looks funny to us, but for them, it's life or death. Even then, running isn't always enough. When the ground is hot enough to fry an egg, sprinting across the open savanna is dangerous. Climbing trees helps, but birds can still swoop down. There is no safe place. Why focus on this lizard? You might ask, why pick on the frilled lizard? Plenty of animals have it tough. Why does being born a frilled lizard suck so much in particular? Because this poor reptile is the perfect example of how evolution gives and takes away. It evolved an incredible piece of biological theater, the frill, that looks dramatic but often doesn't work. It lives in one of the harshest ecosystems on Earth. It is constantly hungry, constantly hunted, and constantly exposed to dangers that it has only limited defenses against. And yet, despite all this, the frilled lizard endures. Somehow, against the odds, it survives long enough to reproduce and keep its species going. But make no mistake, survival doesn't equal happiness. If frilled lizards could talk, they'd probably tell us that being born one of them is a nightmare. So over the course of this story, we'll dive deep into the miserable, hilarious, and tragic reality of the frilled lizard's existence. From the brutal moment of hatching, to the constant struggle to find food, to the daily battle against predators that aren't impressed by their flashy collars, to the loneliness of their solitary lives, and finally to the evolutionary question, why would nature design something so dramatic, yet so flawed? By the end, you'll understand that while they may look cool on a postcard or a zoo exhibit, being born as a frilled lizard is no glamorous gig. It's a survival horror story played out every day in the blazing outback. So buckle up, because once you see life from the perspective of a frilled lizard, you might never look at these little dinosaurs the same way again. Chapter 1. The Birth of a Frilled Lizard. Every story begins somewhere. For the frilled lizard, that story starts not with a triumphant roar or dramatic frill display, but inside a fragile egg, buried in the baking earth of the Australian wilderness. And from the very first moment, the odds are already stacked against it. A fragile beginning. Frilled lizards reproduce by laying clutches of eggs, usually between 8 and 23 at a time. The female digs a shallow nest in sandy soil, deposits her eggs, covers them, and then leaves. No protection, no babysitting, no lullabies. From the moment the eggs are laid, they are alone. For 2 to 3 months, these eggs incubate in the relentless Australian heat. Their fate depends entirely on temperature and weather. Too much rain and the nest could flood. Too much heat and the embryos could overcook. Too little heat and they won't develop at all. The unborn lizards are helpless passengers in this gamble of nature. Already, many won't make it. Imagine your childhood spent locked in a fragile shell, buried in hot dirt, while predators sniff above you, storms rage around you, and the very earth threatens to smother you. That's not a comforting nursery. That's a death trap. The threats begin before birth. While incubating, the eggs are vulnerable to anything that can dig. Monitor lizards, snakes, rodents, even ants. All find reptile eggs a delicious snack. A mother frilled lizard doesn't return to guard her young. If a predator finds the nest, it's a buffet. So before a frilled lizard even hatches, the chances of survival shrink dramatically. Out of a clutch of 20 eggs, perhaps only half will survive to hatching. For the few that do hatch, life doesn't get easier. Breaking free. At last, after weeks of silent growth, the tiny hatchlings fight their way out of their shells. They're only about 3 to 4 inches long, just a fraction of their adult size. Their frill is already there, but folded flat, useless, and unimpressive. The first breaths of air they take are hot, dry, and full of danger. Unlike mammals, there is no warm mother waiting, no safe den. The first thing a frilled lizard sees is blinding sunlight in the endless expanse of open ground, where almost everything that moves could eat it. Narrator, dark humor. Congratulations, little lizard. You've been born into one of the harshest ecosystems on Earth, with no protection, no guidance, and a big neon sign around your neck that basically says, "Eat me." Good luck. A world full of predators. From the moment of hatching, danger is everywhere. Birds of prey like hawks and kookaburras patrol the skies, scanning the ground for movement. To them, a baby frilled lizard looks like a crunchy snack. Snakes silently slither through the grass, able to swallow hatchlings whole. Goannas, large monitor lizards, are opportunistic predators that will happily devour the young. Even ants and spiders can overwhelm hatchlings too weak to defend themselves. And unlike some reptiles, baby frilled lizards don't get parental protection. They must immediately fend for themselves, alone. Out of the dozen or more that hatch, only a small fraction will reach adulthood. The rest become part of the food chain within days or even hours. to instinct over childhood. In mammals, babies spend years learning and being cared for. For frilled lizards, there is no such luxury. Survival depends on instant instinct. The moment they hatch, they already know how to run, how to climb, and how to freeze when danger's near. They can snap at small insects and catch them for food. No one teaches them. It's all encoded in their DNA. But instinct has limits. When you're only a few inches long, instinct doesn't stop a hawk's talons. It doesn't stop a snake's strike. It doesn't stop the crushing jaws of a dingo. Most of them never get a chance to practice their survival skills long enough to master them. The brutal outback environment. The Australian outback is not a gentle place to grow up. Temperatures can soar past 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 43 degrees Celsius, during the day, only to plummet at night. Rain can vanish for months, leaving the land cracked and barren. For a tiny hatchling, this means constant dehydration. They must find shady spots under trees or logs to avoid overheating. But shade is also where predators lurk. Every choice, to run, to hide, to bask, is a gamble. And in the dry season, even food becomes scarce. Hatchlings depend on catching insects like ants, termites, and small beetles. If the rains don't come, insects don't hatch, and the lizards starve. To be born a frilled lizard is to be born into a constant paradox. Hide and you may starve. Hunt and you may be hunted. Move and you may be spotted. Stay still and you may be stepped on. Every decision could be your last. The first runs, one of the frilled lizard's signature traits is its ability to run upright on two legs. Even as hatchlings, they can dash this way, sprinting comically like tiny dinosaurs. But make no mistake, it's not comedy for them. It's survival. When chased, a baby frilled lizard doesn't have the stamina to outrun most predators. But sometimes that sudden, strange sprint buys just enough time to reach the safety of a tree. Trees are lifelines. Hatchlings climb high, gripping bark with their sharp claws, hiding in the canopy. But even here, they're not safe. Birds and larger lizards can follow. Life at the top of the tree is just as perilous as life on the ground. The first frill. Though they are born with frills, hatchlings rarely use them at first. They are too small, too weak, and their frill is unimpressive compared to adults. Still, when truly cornered, even a baby will flare its tiny frill, hiss, and open its mouth in a desperate bluff. To a predator unfamiliar with the trick, this might work. To most, it's laughable. Imagine trying to scare off a wolf by waving a paper fan. That's basically what a hatchling frilled lizard is doing. Intimidation works better when you're not snack-sized. Survival rates, biologists estimate that only a small percentage, perhaps less than 20%, of frilled lizard hatchlings make it to adulthood. That means that for every clutch of 20 eggs, maybe 3 or 4 survive long enough to reproduce. The rest, swallowed, crushed, starved, or cooked by the sun. It's brutal, but that's the reality of life in the wild. High mortality is balanced by high reproduction. The species survives not because most individuals thrive, but because a few lucky survivors carry the torch forward. The birth of a frilled lizard is not a joyful celebration. It is the opening act of a survival drama where most never see the second chapter. For the few that endure, life will not get easier. Their struggles are only beginning. And as they grow, they will discover the double-edged sword of their most famous feature, the frill, a dramatic weapon of bluff and showmanship that often works just as well at getting them killed as it does at saving them. Chapter 2. The frill, a blessing or a curse. If there's one thing that makes the frilled lizard famous, it's the frill. That giant umbrella-like crest of skin is its signature feature. Part defense mechanism, part evolutionary gamble, and part comedy routine. But behind the spectacle lies a deeper truth. The frill is as much of a curse as it is a blessing. To understand why life sucks as a frilled lizard, we need to understand this oversized piece of reptilian theater. The mechanics of the frill. The frill isn't always visible. Most of the time, it lies folded flat around the lizard's neck, like a wrinkled scarf. Cartilage rods extend from the jaw bones to support it, like ribs of an umbrella. When danger approaches, specialized muscles snap these rods forward, forcing the frill open in a dramatic fan shape. At full extension, the frill can be nearly as wide as the lizard's entire body. Bright colors, orange, yellow, red, flash from its inner lining, contrasting with the dull gray-brown of the lizard's body. At the same time, the lizard opens its mouth, hisses loudly, and rears up on its hind legs. In an instant, a small, forgettable lizard transforms into a fire-breathing dragon, or at least, that's what it wants you to think. To the purpose of the frill. So why does this frill exist? The answer is intimidation. In the brutal outback, where survival is about bluffing as much as fighting, the frill gives the lizard a chance to look bigger, scarier, and more dangerous than it really is. Predators are opportunists. If they think a meal looks risky, they might back off. The frill buys time, just enough hesitation for the lizard to escape. In evolutionary terms, this makes sense. The frill is not a weapon. It has no venom, no spikes, no strength. It's pure theater, a biological special effect. When the frill works, the frill does have its moments of glory. A small snake might slither close, curious about an easy meal, then suddenly recoil when a harmless-looking lizard explodes into a monstrous display of sound and color. A rival lizard might think twice about picking a fight when faced with a frill at full expansion. Even humans, seeing a frilled lizard perform its show, often step back, startled by the sudden drama. For these brief moments, the frill saves lives. It's the difference between being eaten and escaping. When the frill fails. But here's the problem. Predators adapt. Birds of prey, like eagles and kookaburras, are not easily fooled. They've seen the trick before. To them, the frill is just a signal that their meal is scared and vulnerable. In fact, opening the frill can sometimes attract more attention, since the bright colors contrast against the dull background. Dingoes, snakes, and larger lizards. They don't care about theater. They care about calories, and calories taste the same, whether your food hisses or not. Imagine trying to stop a mugger by wearing a brightly colored inflatable clown suit. Sure, you look scary for a second, but when the mugger realizes you're just ridiculous, you're still getting robbed. That's the frill, the cost of drama. Even when the frill works, it comes at a price. Unfurling the frill takes energy. It requires tensing muscles, opening the mouth wide, and sustaining an aggressive posture. For a small reptile living on a razor-thin energy budget, that's costly. And the frill is not aerodynamic. When opened, it slows the lizard down and makes it more awkward to move. Imagine trying to sprint while carrying a parachute tied to your neck. If the bluff fails, the frill can actually make it harder to escape. In other words, the frill is like pulling the fire alarm, useful in an emergency, but it also makes everyone in the building stare at you while you try to sneak out. Evolution's gamble. Why would evolution create something so dramatic yet flawed? The answer lies in probability. If the frill works even a fraction of the time, say scaring off 1 in 10 predators, that might be enough to increase survival rates. Evolution doesn't care if most individuals die. It only cares that enough survive to reproduce. Over generations, the lizards with bigger, brighter frills had a slightly better chance of surviving, and so the frill became more exaggerated, more colorful, more ridiculous. But evolution doesn't guarantee perfection. It just tinkers. What worked millions of years ago against smaller, less experienced predators may not work today in a world of smarter, hungrier hunters. The frill is an evolutionary relic, once useful, now mostly a gamble. The social side of the frill. The frill isn't only for predators, it's also a signal to other lizards. Males use their frills in displays against rivals, puffing up to look bigger and tougher. During mating season, frills help advertise strength and health. A bigger, brighter frill may attract more mates. Territorial disputes are often settled with frill displays, reducing the need for physical combat. So in social terms, the frill works as a billboard. I'm strong, I'm healthy, Don't mess with me. But again, this has downsides. A flashy frill makes you more visible to predators. A bright orange collar in the middle of dry grassland is basically nature's version of wearing a neon sign that says, "Here I am." Pop culture dragons. The frill has also made the lizard famous in human culture. Movies, TV shows, and video games have exaggerated the frill into a terrifying weapon. The most famous example? Jurassic Park, where a frilled dinosaur spits venom at its prey. In reality, the frilled lizard does not spit venom. It doesn't even bite much. Its frill is 100% show, zero substance. Hollywood gave the frilled lizard superpowers. Reality gave it a glorified Halloween costume. Why the frill sucks? So let's recap. Why does the frill suck as much as it helps? 1. It doesn't work on major predators. Birds, snakes, and mammals often ignore it. 2. It drains energy. Opening the frill is costly for a small, calorie-limited lizard. 3. It makes escape harder, like running with a parachute. 4. It attracts attention. Bright colors stand out in the outback. 5. It's socially risky. Flashing it at rivals invites fights that can injure or exhaust the lizard. In short, the frill is a gamble. Sometimes it works, sometimes it fails spectacularly. And when your entire survival strategy is built on bluffing, failure usually means death. The frill is iconic. It makes the frilled lizard a star of nature documentaries, zoo exhibits, and even Hollywood blockbusters. But in the real world, it's a desperate trick, a fragile curtain hiding a vulnerable creature. Sometimes it buys time, sometimes it fails. But one thing is certain, for the frilled lizard, survival is never guaranteed. And survival requires more than bluffing. It requires food. Yet even in the search for a simple meal, life as a frilled lizard doesn't get any easier. Chapter 3. Food Struggles. For most animals, food is survival. For the frilled lizard, food is a daily lottery, a game of patience, chance, and hunger in one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth. From insects to small vertebrates, the menu might sound varied. But in reality, feeding as a frilled lizard is a constant struggle, one where starvation is just as deadly as predators. What's on the menu? Frilled lizards are insectivores first and foremost. Their diet consists of grasshoppers, crickets, beetles, ants, termites, caterpillars. But they are opportunists. A hungry frilled lizard will also eat small mammals like baby rodents, other lizards, frogs, even bird chicks if they can catch them. Still, the majority of their meals are small, crunchy bugs. That means they need to eat a lot of them to survive. Imagine living on nothing but popcorn shrimp. Sure, they're tasty, but you'd need thousands every week just to stay alive. That's the frilled lizard's reality. The waiting game hunting for a frilled lizard isn't about chasing prey down. It's about patience. They spend long hours perched on trees or crouched in tall grass, waiting, motionless, watching. The moment an insect scuttles past, they pounce in a sudden burst of speed. This ambush style conserves energy, critical in a land where calories are scarce, but it comes with a price: long stretches of waiting, during which hunger gnaws constantly. If insects are abundant, life is manageable. But during dry seasons, when insect populations crash, waiting can mean starvation. Feast or famine. Australia's climate swings between extremes. The wet season brings rains that unleash swarms of insects. During these months, frilled lizards can gorge themselves, snapping up prey with relative ease. But when the dry season arrives, the land transforms. The soil cracks, plants wither, and insects vanish. For weeks, sometimes months, food becomes dangerously scarce. Frilled lizards must wander further, risking exposure to predators, or survive on meager scraps. Starvation becomes a real threat. Hatchlings with smaller bodies and higher energy demands often don't make it through the first dry season. To be born a frilled lizard is to live on nature's roller coaster. Brief times of plenty, followed by long stretches of hunger. Feast or famine, year after year. So the energy math. The problem isn't just finding food, it's balancing the energy equation. Every hunt is a gamble. Successful hunt equals energy gained. Failed hunt equals energy wasted. Running after an insect that escapes means calories spent with nothing to show for it. Opening the frill or fleeing from a predator burns even more energy. For a creature weighing just 1 to 2 pounds, every wasted calorie is costly. In the outback, you don't just eat to live, you live to eat. And if the math doesn't add up, you die. Key the termite boom. One of the few reliable food sources in Australia is termites. Colonies thrive in the dry savanna, building giant mounds that look like alien skyscrapers. For a frilled lizard, a termite swarm is like hitting the jackpot. Thousands of tiny protein-packed insects pour out, and the lizard gorges until it can barely move. But even this bounty is short-lived. Termite activity depends on weather. If rains fail, the swarms don't come. And without them, many lizards starve. Just risky meals. While most of their diet is insects, frilled lizards sometimes go after bigger prey, like rodents or smaller reptiles. These meals are high in energy but dangerous. A bite from a struggling rat can injure a lizard badly. Eating other reptiles carries the risk of parasites, and chasing bigger prey takes speed and energy, often more than the meal is worth. It's the reptile equivalent of trying to eat a steak while the steak punches back. Heat and hunger temperature plays another cruel role. As cold-blooded reptiles, frilled lizards depend on external heat to regulate their metabolism. On cool mornings, their bodies are sluggish, making hunting harder. On scorching afternoons, hunting risks overheating. That leaves only narrow windows of time, early morning and late afternoon, when they can hunt efficiently. If prey isn't active during those windows, the lizard goes hungry. The sun, insects, and predators all run on different schedules. For the frilled lizard, bad timing means empty stomachs. Hatchling hunger. For young frilled lizards, food struggles are even harsher. Hatchlings need constant fuel to grow, but their small size limits what they can catch. A beetle that an adult swallows whole might be too big for a hatchling to manage. And because they're slower and less experienced, they miss more hunts than adults. Hunger weakens them, making them slower still, creating a deadly spiral. Most hatchlings die not from predators, but from simply running out of energy. The constant trade-off. Every hunting decision is a trade-off. Hunt in the open. Higher chance of finding food, but higher chance of being eaten. Stay hidden. Safer, but risk starvation. Frilled lizards live with this dilemma daily, and more often than not, the choice is lose-lose. Starve in safety or risk everything for a meal. That is the reality of a frilled lizard's menu. Key scene. The camera follows a hungry frilled lizard creeping through dry grass. It spots a grasshopper and lunges, but misses. The insect springs away. The lizard pauses, sides heaving, frill twitching. Its stomach remains empty. It climbs back to a tree, waiting, hungry, hoping the next chance won't slip away. The frilled lizard lives in constant hunger. When food is plenty, it eats with abandon. But when famine strikes, hunger gnaws at every moment. Every missed insect, every failed strike, is another step toward starvation. And while hunger is deadly, there is a threat even more constant: predators. Because in the outback, being hungry is bad, but being hunted is worse. Chapter 4. Predators everywhere. In the Australian wilderness, everything eats everything. And for the frilled lizard, the world is full of enemies. From the skies above to the soil beneath their feet, danger lurks in every direction. Their famous frill may startle some, but against most predators is nothing more than false bravado. Survival for a frilled lizard isn't about thriving, it's about dodging death day after day. Quokka the sky is death. The first and most relentless threat comes from above. Kookaburras, with their mocking laughter, are expert hunters. They perch on branches, scanning the ground, waiting for movement. A frilled lizard that strays into the open is easy prey. Eagles and hawks patrol the skies, able to spot a small reptile from astonishing heights. Their dive is so fast and precise that a lizard has barely a second to react. Other birds of prey, like falcons, strike without warning, turning the open savanna into a killing field. For a lizard that spends much of its life on trees and in grasslands, this means one thing: the sky is never safe. Every shadow overhead is a potential executioner. Every sudden cry from the treetops could be the last sound a frilled lizard ever hears. Calc were the silent assassins. As if the skies weren't enough, snakes slither silently through the underbrush. Pythons can crush and swallow a frilled lizard whole. Venomous snakes, like brown snakes, strike with lightning speed, injecting venom that paralyzes their prey. Even smaller snakes will happily eat hatchlings, which are bite-sized and defenseless. Snakes don't rely on sight alone. They detect vibrations in the ground and heat signatures, making it nearly impossible for a frilled lizard to hide. The frill, dramatic as it is, does little here. A snake isn't impressed by theater. It strikes, and the game is over. Could the rival lizards? Even fellow reptiles pose threats. Large monitor lizards, goannas, patrol the savanna with a keen sense of smell. They are opportunistic feeders, devouring eggs, hatchlings, and sometimes even juveniles. Ironically, other frilled lizards can also be deadly. Adults are territorial and aggressive. Hatchlings wandering into another's turf can be attacked, injured, or eaten. Cannibalism isn't common, but it happens when food is scarce. In the outback, even your own kind isn't guaranteed to be a friend. Mammalian hunters. Then there are the mammals. Dingoes, Australia's wild dogs, hunt across the outback in packs. A frilled lizard has no chance against them. Feral cats and foxes, introduced by humans, have become devastating predators. Agile and cunning, they kill lizards for food, and sometimes for sport. Even rodents can raid nests, eating eggs before the babies ever hatch. These mammals represent a particularly cruel twist. Many are invasive species. Evolution never prepared the frilled lizard to defend against them. Nature was already cruel. Humans made it worse. The small killer's predators aren't always big. Sometimes they're tiny. Ants can swarm hatchlings, overwhelming them before they have a chance to escape. Large spiders like tarantulas can ambush small lizards and inject venom. Wasps and centipedes can kill hatchlings with a single sting or bite. To a young frilled lizard, the world is filled with death on every scale, from giants that swoop from the sky to insects waiting in the dirt. The limits of the frill against this barrage of predators: the frill is a weak defense. Yes, it may scare off an inexperienced snake or confuse a curious bird, but once predators learn the trick, the frill becomes nothing more than an announcement of panic. Worse, it can reveal the lizard's position, drawing attention when silence would have been safer. It's like shouting, "I'm scared," at the top of your lungs in a dark alley. It doesn't make the danger go away. It just lets everyone know you're easy prey. Life of constant vigilance. Living as a frilled lizard means existing in a constant state of alertness. Every rustle of grass could be a snake. Every shadow overhead could be a hawk. Every rival lizard could turn into an enemy. They spend their lives freezing, fleeing, or bluffing. Actual moments of peace are rare. Even basking in the sun, something reptiles need to do to regulate their temperature, can be fatal if done in the open. The stress is constant, and unlike humans, lizards can't rationalize it. Their entire nervous system is tuned for survival mode, every moment of every day. For hatchlings, the danger is magnified. At only a few inches long, they are snack-sized for almost every predator in the outback. Birds pick them off. Snakes swallow them whole. Even spiders and ants can overwhelm them. The mortality rate is staggering. Out of dozens of eggs laid in a clutch, only a handful survive the first few weeks. Most become food for something else. This isn't a gentle childhood, it's a bloodbath. The food chain. In many ways, the frilled lizard is an important link in Australia's food chain. It eats insects, helping control populations. In turn, it becomes prey for countless larger animals. From an ecological perspective, the frilled lizard's suffering is part of balance. From the lizard's perspective, it's a daily nightmare. To be born as a frilled lizard is to be born as food. Your life isn't your own. It's calories for someone else. Predators define the frilled lizard's existence. From the moment it hatches, it is hunted. Its frill, its speed, its instincts, all are tested daily. Most fail, a few endure, but even those that escape the jaws of predators cannot escape the greatest enemy of all, the environment itself. In the outback, the land is as merciless as the hunters. Chapter 5. The harsh outback. If predators don't kill you in the outback, the land itself just might. For the frilled lizard, Australia's harsh wilderness is not just a home. It's a gauntlet of extremes: blistering heat, sudden storms, droughts that last for months. Here, survival isn't only about avoiding being eaten. It's about withstanding the land itself. Scorched by the sun. Australia's sun is relentless. Daytime temperatures in the dry season regularly soar above 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit. For a cold-blooded reptile, this creates a deadly paradox. Too little sun, and the lizard cannot move or hunt. Too much sun, and the lizard overheats, leading to heat stress, dehydration, and eventually death. To cope, frilled lizards adopt a strict routine. They bask in the morning to warm up, retreat to shade in midday, and hunt in the cooler late afternoons. But this narrow window for activity often clashes with the schedules of prey and predators. The sun is both the lizard's battery charger and its slow cooker. Choose drought and thirst. Perhaps the greatest enemy of all is water, or rather, the lack of it. Much of northern Australia cycles between wet and dry seasons. During the dry, rainfall may vanish for months. Streams shrink to nothing. Ponds evaporate. Vegetation withers. Insects, the frilled lizard's main food source, decline sharply. Frilled lizards don't drink from pools like mammals. They get most of their moisture from the bodies of insects they eat. That means when prey is scarce, dehydration sets in fast. Their skin dries, their energy drops, and they weaken day by day. A frilled lizard doesn't just starve in the dry season, it dries out like leather left in the sun. The chaos of the wet. But when the rains finally come, the pendulum swings violently in the other direction. The wet season brings storms, flash floods, and sudden downpours that can drown nests or wash away hatchlings. Heavy rains unleash insect swarms, which should be good, but too much rain can scatter them, making hunting unpredictable. The land swings from desert to swamp, and frilled lizards must adapt overnight. In the outback, stability doesn't exist. You are either burning, drying, or drowning. There is no in-between. Fire and fury. Another hazard of the outback: fire. Bushfires, sparked by lightning or human activity, sweep through savannas with terrifying speed. Frilled lizards caught in open ground have little chance of escape. Those on trees may survive if the fire skirts the area, but often flames consume everything in their path. Even when lizards survive, fire destroys the undergrowth that shelters them and wipes out insect populations. Recovery can take months, leaving survivors in barren wastelands with no cover and no food. Predators can be escaped. Hunger can sometimes be endured. But when the land itself catches fire, there is nowhere to run. Temperature whiplash. The outback doesn't only get hot. At night, temperatures can plunge drastically. A frilled lizard that was basking in searing heat by day may shiver in cold darkness just hours later. Without fur, feathers, or fat, they must cling to trees and conserve what little warmth remains in their bodies. This constant yo-yo of temperature takes a toll. Their metabolism slows, digestion stalls, and hunting becomes unpredictable. For hatchlings, the swings are especially deadly. A sparse home. Unlike lush rainforests, the frilled lizard's habitat is open woodland and savanna. This means limited trees for safety, vast stretches of grass where predators can spot them. Thin cover during dry seasons when vegetation dies back. Even their homes are hostile. A lizard may cling to a tree trunk for safety, but those same trees attract birds that use them as hunting perches. Even your shelter in the outback doubles as a sniper tower for things that want to eat you. Hatchlings versus the outback. If adult frilled lizards find the land punishing, hatchlings face a near impossible trial. Eggs are laid in shallow nests dug into the ground. In dry years, the soil bakes hard, cooking the eggs before they hatch. In wet years, nests can flood, drowning the embryos. Those that hatch face a double challenge, surviving predators and finding food in an environment that may offer nothing. With tiny bodies, they dehydrate faster, starve faster, and die faster. This is why most hatchlings don't live past their first year. The outback itself is their deadliest predator. Feast, famine, repeat. What makes the outback especially cruel is its cycle of extremes. Wet season, abundance of insects, lush vegetation, rapid growth. Dry season, famine, fire, death. This cycle repeats every year, a pendulum of survival that frilled lizards cannot escape. Their lives are dictated not by choice, but by the whims of climate. For a frilled lizard, survival is never permanent. It's borrowed time, renewed or revoked with each swing of the season. The predators of the outback take lives one at a time. But the land itself, the land kills in waves. It burns, it starves, it drowns. For the frilled lizard, every year is a gamble against the climate. And yet, if they survive the land and the hunters, there is still no safety, because sometimes the greatest threat comes from their own kind. Chapter 6. Rivalry and Mates. In the outback, the dangers don't just come from above or below. Sometimes the greatest threat comes from your own kind. Frilled lizards live solitary lives, but when territories overlap, or when the breeding season arrives, peace disappears, rivals clash, frills flare, and survival depends not only on evading predators, but also on defeating your neighbors. Territorial beasts, frilled lizards are solitary by nature. Each adult stakes out a patch of territory, using trees as both home base and lookout post. These territories overlap, but the lizard will defend its core space fiercely. A rival wandering too close will be met with a dramatic display. Frills spread wide, mouth gaping, body elevated on hind legs. If intimidation fails, the encounter escalates into a physical fight. Clawing, biting, grappling until one retreats. These battles are risky. Injuries like torn skin, broken tails, or deep scratches can become infected, often leading to death in the wild. But the alternative, losing territory, means losing access to food, shelter, and mates. In the outback, real estate is deadly serious, and eviction notices are written in blood, the theater of the frill. The frill isn't just for predators, it's a weapon in social battles. Opening the frill makes the lizard appear larger, more intimidating, and more colorful. Bright patterns flash like a warning flag, sending a clear message. I am bigger, stronger, and angrier than you. But here's the catch. Bluffing is dangerous. A rival who calls the bluff will quickly test if the lizard behind the frill can actually fight, and if not, the bluffer often pays with wounds. Thus, the frill becomes both a shield and a trap, useful for avoiding conflict, but sometimes the very thing that drags a lizard into one. The breeding season. The one time frilled lizards tolerate each other is during the breeding season, but even then, tolerate is a generous word. Males compete fiercely for access to females. Dominant males control the best territories, and females choose mates based on displays of strength, size, and vigor. Males flare their frills, bob their heads, and chase rivals away. Females watch carefully, often selecting the victor. The losers, they slink off, wounded, hungry, and rejected. This means that survival alone isn't enough. A male must also win in combat to pass on his genes. The pressure is immense. For male frilled lizards, the equation is cruel. Win and you breed, lose and your bloodline ends. The burden on females. If males fight for dominance, females bear the burden of reproduction. After mating, a female lays 8 to 23 eggs in a shallow nest dug into the soil. She buries them carefully and then leaves. Unlike mammals or birds, there is no parental care. The eggs are on their own. Incubation lasts 2 to 3 months, during which the nest may dry, flood, or be raided by predators. When the hatchlings emerge, they face the world completely alone. No mother, no protection, no guidance. To be born a frilled lizard is to be born an orphan. Independence isn't a choice, it's a death sentence waiting to be postponed. The costs of conflict fighting rivals is costly beyond immediate injuries. Energy drain. Chasing and battling burns precious calories that could have gone toward hunting or surviving. Predator exposure. While fighting, lizards draw attention to themselves. A hawk overhead sees not one, but 2 distracted meals. Infection risk. A bite or scratch can fester, weakening the lizard and shortening its lifespan. In short, even if you win, you lose something. In the outback, there are no clean victories. Every duel leaves scars, some visible, some fatal. Hatchlings and siblings rivalry doesn't start in adulthood. Hatchlings face competition the moment they emerge from the soil. Dozens may hatch at once, scrambling from the same nest site. Siblings quickly disperse to avoid competing for food or becoming each other's first meal. Those that linger near one another soon clash, snapping and chasing to establish tiny micro-territories. Even at just a few inches long, rivalry shapes their survival. Only the fastest, strongest, and luckiest hatchlings make it through. Solitary lives, unlike pack animals or cooperative species, frilled lizards live and die alone. No help from parents. No help from siblings. No cooperative hunting or group defense. Their only social interactions are battles, chases, and fleeting moments of mating. The rest of life is solitude. Hiding, hunting, basking, and surviving alone. The frilled lizard is a loner by necessity. Its life is not shared, but endured. One body against the outback. The illusion of dominance. For males that win in secure territories, dominance is temporary. A stronger rival, a younger challenger, or even a drought can undo everything. Territories shift, mates change, and no reign lasts long. Victory is fleeting. Defeat is permanent. For the frilled lizard, survival is never enough. They must battle rivals, claim territories, and fight for mates. Every season is war. Every victory is temporary. And yet, even when they succeed, new dangers await. Because when humans enter the picture, the rules of survival change forever. Chapter 7. The Human Problem. The outback was already cruel, but then came humans. For millions of years, frilled lizards survived predators, droughts, and fire. But nothing could prepare them for the most disruptive species of all. From habitat destruction to invasive predators, humans have reshaped the frilled lizard's world and made survival even harder. Habitat loss. The frilled lizard's home, open woodlands and savannas, is disappearing. Clearing land for agriculture wipes out trees the lizards depend on for safety and hunting. Urban expansion fragments habitats, cutting territories into tiny isolated patches. Road construction creates open stretches where lizards must cross, exposed to both cars and predators. To a frilled lizard, fewer trees mean fewer places to hide, fewer hunting spots, and fewer chances to survive. When the trees fall, so do the lizards. Not from the axe, but from the slow erosion of their world. Invasive predators. Humans didn't just change the land, they brought killers. Feral cats stalk the outback, hunting for sport as much as food. Studies show cats kill billions of reptiles across Australia each year. Red foxes, introduced for hunting, now spread through the countryside, tearing into nests and chasing down juveniles. Even dogs and livestock trample through habitats, crushing nests or startling lizards into exposing themselves. These predators weren't part of the frilled lizard's evolutionary history. Their instincts don't recognize cats or foxes as threats until it's too late. In the cruel arithmetic of survival, evolution had no time to add cats and foxes to the equation. Roadkill reality. The expansion of roads across the outback has introduced a new predator: vehicles. Frilled lizards, like many reptiles, often bask on warm asphalt in the morning. To them, a road is just another flat, sunny surface. But cars and trucks don't stop. Countless lizards are crushed every year, not by hunters, not by drought, but by tires. In the battle against nature, the frilled lizard evolved weapons and tricks. Against rubber and steel, it has non-human-driven fires. While natural bushfires are part of the ecosystem, human-driven fires are deadlier and more frequent. Farmers burn land for clearing, often destroying nests. Accidental wildfires spread from campfires or cigarettes. Climate change, driven by human activity, fuels hotter, more intense fires that sweep through habitats before lizards can escape. For creatures that already struggle with natural fires, this added intensity is devastating. Climate change. Perhaps the most insidious human impact is climate change. Longer, harsher droughts push lizards closer to starvation. Hotter temperatures make daytime hunting nearly impossible. Unpredictable rains disrupt breeding and insect populations. The frilled lizard is finely tuned to seasonal cycles. When those cycles break down, so does the lizard's survival strategy. The land was always cruel, but now its cruelty is warped by human hands, exploitation, and tourism. Frilled lizards have become iconic symbols of Australia. Their dramatic frill display is famous, appearing in documentaries, advertisements, and even movies. But fame has a cost. Some are captured for the pet trade, ripped from the wild. Tourists harass them into displaying their frill for photos. Stress from repeated disturbance weakens immune systems, leaving lizards vulnerable. What humans see as a quirky photo opportunity is, for the lizard, a moment of terror. Hatchlings at risk, human changes hit the youngest the hardest. Nests are trampled by cattle, hikers, or vehicles. Eggs are exposed when soil is disturbed by farming. Hatchlings wander into human spaces, only to be killed by pets, cars, or even curious children. A species already facing high infant mortality now contends with additional unnatural obstacles. A fragile balance. The frilled lizard isn't endangered yet. Populations still survive across northern Australia and Papua New Guinea, but their future is uncertain. They are not equipped to adapt to the rapid pace of human-driven change. What evolution shaped over millions of years is being undone in centuries. The frilled lizard has always lived on the edge of survival. But with humans in the picture, that edge is sharper, narrower, and more unforgiving than ever. The outback was already filled with predators, hunger, and fire. But humanity brought new challenges, ones no frill, no sprint, no bluff can overcome. For the frilled lizard, survival was always cruel. With humans, it borders on impossible. And yet, despite the odds, they endure. Which raises the final question: why keep struggling at all? What's the point of such a brutal existence? 8. The pointless struggle. Life for a frilled lizard is defined not by thriving, but by barely surviving. Every day is a battle against hunger, heat, rivals, predators, and now, humans. To be born as a frilled lizard is to inherit a life of constant struggle, and in the end, all that struggle leads to a single truth. For most, it's pointless. The hatchling lottery. From the very beginning, the odds are stacked against them. Out of a clutch of 20 eggs, maybe 2 or 3 will survive the first year. Most hatchlings die before tasting adulthood, eaten by snakes, birds, or ants. Those that do survive often grow up in weakened states, scarred and hungry. Survival is not the rule, it's the exception. Imagine 90% of your siblings disappearing before your eyes. For the frilled lizard, that's not tragedy, that's normal. The gauntlet predators don't stop once they reach adulthood. Even the largest, strongest frilled lizard is never safe. Hawks still hunt them. Snakes still strike. Dingoes, cats, and monitors stalk them relentlessly. The frill may buy a few seconds of hesitation. A sprint may save 1 in 10 attempts, but eventually the odds catch up. The predator wins. The frilled lizard isn't so much living as it is running down the clock. Starving in silence. Even without predators, the land itself kills. Long droughts strip away insects. Extreme heat leaves lizards unable to hunt during most of the day. Fires erase shelter and food for months at a time. Starvation is a slow predator, quieter than snakes and hawks, but just as merciless. Many frilled lizards don't die dramatically in a fight. They simply weaken, stop hunting, and vanish into the dust. Fighting your own kind. Those that do survive hunger and predators face another cruel twist. Their own kind. Males must fight rival males to secure mates. The losers often limp away with infected wounds or broken jaws. Even the winners pay a price. Lost energy, increased exposure to predators, constant risk of injury. Females, meanwhile, endure the burden of producing eggs, only to abandon them to an unforgiving world. Their offspring rarely survive. For the frilled lizard, survival isn't rewarded. It's punished with more struggle. The nature's harsh joke. The frilled lizard's famous frill, its trademark feature, the reason it's known around the world, is almost useless. Against predators, it fails more often than it succeeds. Against rivals, it provokes fights as often as it prevents them. Against hunger, heat, or humans, it does absolutely nothing. What looks impressive on documentaries is, in reality, an evolutionary gamble that rarely pays off. The frill may impress humans, but in the outback, it's little more than a colorful target. Where's the human layer? As if nature weren't enough, humans have made survival even more pointless. Roads crush them, cats and foxes kill them, farms erase their habitats. Climate change twists the seasons into chaos. Every survival skill they've honed over millions of years means less and less in a human-altered world. The endless cycle. For those that survive long enough to breed, the cycle simply repeats. Eggs laid in soil, hatchlings born into danger. Predators, hunger, rivals, and humans thinning the numbers again. Generation after generation, the struggle continues. And the question looms, what is it all for? Most frilled lizards never live long enough to enjoy their survival. They survive only long enough to create the next generation of victims. A short life, full of fear in the wild, a frilled lizard rarely lives beyond 10 years. And most never see half that age. Every day is repetition. Hunt, hide, bask, flee, fight. Not thriving, not flourishing, just delaying the inevitable. Unlike humans, frilled lizards don't dream, build, or hope. Their existence is a string of instincts. Eat when you can, run when you must, reproduce if you're lucky. It is not life as we imagine it. It is survival, raw and relentless, stripped of meaning. To be born as a frilled lizard is to be born into struggle. From the moment you hatch until the moment you die, your life is borrowed time, carved out between hunger, predators, rivals, and the land itself. There is no reward, no comfort, no peace, only the endless, pointless struggle to exist in a world that seems determined to erase you. And yet, they endure, because sometimes survival itself is the only point. Why it truly sucks. If you were born as a frilled lizard, the world is never safe. Life begins with hunger, danger, and uncertainty, and it continues with nothing but struggle. From the moment you hatch until the day you die, your existence is defined by one unchanging reality. The world does not want you to survive, and if it does, it will make you pay every step of the way. Hatchling horror. The first chapter of life is merciless. Hatchlings emerge from soil already baked dry or saturated with rain. Insects, the only source of food, are scarce and elusive. Predators, from birds to ants, are everywhere. Most hatchlings die before tasting freedom. Only the fastest, strongest, or luckiest survive. Survival isn't a right. It's a lottery that favors no one. To be born is to enter a world where the odds are against you and the deck is stacked before you even move. Predators everywhere. As frilled lizards grow, the gauntlet continues. Hawks, eagles, and kookaburras patrol the skies. Snakes, monitors, and dingoes stalk the ground. Even their own kind becomes a threat during territorial battles. Every step is a gamble. Every moment carries risk. No matter how fast or clever a lizard becomes, death is always just a strike away. Speed, cunning, or frill displays don't guarantee survival. They only delay the inevitable. Tour hunger never sleeps. Even if predators fail, hunger persists. Insects vanish during droughts. Extreme heat limits hunting hours. Fires destroy shelter and food alike. The frilled lizard survives only by a delicate balance of energy. Hunt efficiently, hide wisely, and hope the next meal appears before starvation claims you. Most battles are fought silently, not with claws or teeth, but in the gnawing emptiness of the stomach. Rivalry in reproduction life is solitary but never peaceful. Males battle rivals for territory and mates. Females lay eggs and leave them to face the world alone. Hatchlings disperse and compete with siblings for limited resources. Even victory is costly. Energy drained, wounds sustained, predators alerted. Survival is temporary, fragile, and exhausting. Reproduction is not triumph. It is a gamble with the highest stakes, and the losers are eaten, starved, or left to die. The outback's cruelty. The land itself is another predator. Scorching heat and freezing nights stress metabolism. Fires, floods, and droughts strike without warning. Sparse trees and grass expose lizards to predators and humans alike. The outback is a relentless teacher of one lesson. Survival is painful, fleeting, and unforgiving. Humans make it worse. Modern humans add chaos to an already cruel system. Roads crush basking lizards. Farms and deforestation destroy habitat. Invasive species like cats and foxes introduce new killers. Climate change twists seasons into unpredictable extremes. Every skill the frilled lizard evolved over millions of years is now challenged by a world it cannot control. What evolution built over eons, humans threaten in decades. The endless cycle. Life for a frilled lizard is repetition without reward. Hatchlings struggle, most die. Or survivors grow, face rivals and predators. They breed, leaving offspring to repeat the cycle. For most, survival is fleeting. For some, life is long enough only to endure, never to thrive. Every generation begins in peril and ends in struggle. Nature is not cruel by mistake. It is relentless by design. Brief moments of triumph. Yes, there are fleeting victories. A successful hunt. A rival driven off. A hatchling surviving its first year. But these are temporary reprieves, not escapes. Death waits patiently at every corner, whether by predator, starvation, or disaster. Even these small successes only highlight the fragility of life, not its comfort or joy. The frill's false promise. The iconic frill, so admired by humans, is largely useless in the grand scheme. It may startle a predator or rival. It may impress a mate, but it cannot stop droughts, starvation, fire, or human threats. It is theater in a life of hardship, a symbol of struggle, not of power. Beautiful, flamboyant, utterly powerless. The frill is the perfect metaphor for life itself. Life's brutal truth. The frilled lizard embodies a simple, stark reality. Life in the wild is not fair, not comfortable, not long. Hunger is constant. Danger is everywhere. Safety is an illusion. Most die before reproducing. Survival is measured in days, weeks, or months. Thriving is almost never possible. To be born as a frilled lizard is to inherit a world that wants you dead. Every instinct, every behavior, every frilled display is a response to threats. Nothing more, nothing less. Life is a relentless struggle with no guarantee, no comfort, and no reward. And yet, somehow against impossible odds, some endure. Not for pleasure, not for legacy, not for glory, simply to exist for a moment longer in a world that doesn't care. Being born a frilled lizard is hard. It is harsh, it is brutal, and it sucks. But somehow they keep living, and in that survival there is a strange, stubborn dignity, a reminder that even the smallest creatures fight and endure in a world that would rather see them gone.